Now we are live. Hello, everybody. Once again, we're back to Raise2Launch podcast, where Tomas and I do both bring our differing perspectives on having grown and launched and scaled a number of companies. And today, based off a lot of conversations we've been having recently with companies we're working with and founders we've been advising and talking to, I think it's a good time to talk about how to scale your actual revenue teams. And when it's the appropriate time to hire somebody to help you scale up revenue in your business. And I think before we even dive into when is the right time, who do you hire, all those questions, what's the very first thing you should be asking yourself when you're trying to figure out when do I hire a revenue person in my company?
I think the first thing you need to ask yourself, am I a revenue generating co-founder or not? So it starts with that. And then most founders don't really evaluate that. Are they more product focused or are they more business focused? Are they able to generate revenue? How much revenue they can generate? And where their own bottleneck is? Because certainly as a founder, you will generate revenue easier. So before you even hire somebody or thinking to scale with somebody, you need to know your targets, your capabilities, your level of involvement in this.
Yeah, I agree. I do think it's worth noting for any startup that has reached even the tiniest bit of success, even the most programmer product like doesn't want to be a salesperson founder will probably be revenue generating. Just because, like, I remember when I was the first non-tech hire at Unito. This is like, 7 years ago, right? There was the founder, the CEO, Mark, whose background was in comp science, the two lead engineers, Eric and John, who were both developers for 20 years, and then a 5-person engineering team. That was it. And you would say, oh, they had no revenue generating team members, but the CEO, the CTO, the VP of engineering would show up on sales calls. They would sell, even though it wasn't their comfort zone. And there is, as you're building out a revenue team, odds are if your business makes any money, you as a founder or a co-founder were part of it. But what is your comfort? What do you want to be doing? Where should your focus be? And what I have tended to see is when your founding team is very heavily product and engineering, they tend to give away revenue too early. They tend to say, I don't want to do this marketing garbage. I don't want to do this marketing bullshit. I don't want to do this sales garbage. Not for me. And so they'll hire on an agency or a VP of sales from somewhere and not understand by the very nature of what you're doing, unless you have the knowledge to systematize your sales processes up front. When you hire somebody on, they'll be worse at it than you are. They won't really grok your product as well as you do. And they may, you hear all the time, a CEO complains, I hired a VP of sales or a VP of marketing. 6 months have gone by, nothing has changed. My business is just bleeding money now because I've got this expensive hire on my org chart. How do you, as a product-led founder, we'll get to business-led in a minute, as a product-led founder, take an action to make sure that when you're saying, all right, I've built a product, I know it works, I've got a few customers, I want somebody to really solve my revenue scaling problem. What do you look for in that first person to try and make sure that you're not hiring the wrong person from the beginning?
Yeah, it would take a step back and ask there why you don't have that person on the founder level. And if you don't, how you can make this hire become your part of your management, board, equity, and so on. If you don't give equity to someone, you're always going to get a job. But the moment the person has stake at your company, they will actually become a higher performer ultimately. So let's just assume that you have a business co-founder. Is this business co-founder can teach the next person you hire? That's actually goes back to understanding your limitations. If you're a business co-founder, or do you able to teach the next revenue generating person? And I'm saying teaching this is a complex thing. If somebody is doing business development and sales for 10, 15 years, they may not be able to teach the new person. They are called this level of know-how is so high that they're unconsciously competent, meaning that they're unconscious about why they do things already, and they're so competent they can't even explain why they're doing it. So they're not going to be able to train the junior salesperson at all. The junior salesperson will feel there's a gap, cannot execute what the founder is saying. It's going to be a disappointment, even though you hire the best talent. So it goes back understanding your own competencies. If you have a business co-founder, is this business co-founder can really teach somebody, hands-on work with somebody, pair up with somebody, or just able to maybe do high-level things. So what I think the failure number one begins is not knowing how the dynamic gonna be. So, and what kind of salesperson you hire, a mid-level, a senior, a junior, and are you open to the input, or you just wanna say what you should be, what this person should be? So these are all questions before you even start looking for this revenue generating person. And I'm saying this from experience with so much recruitment background, building my own company. Um, Once up for from ground zero, I had to rebuild the sales team 3 times. First sales team failed because we didn't have a brand strong enough for them to close anything, because they didn't have the title co-founder. That was good enough to fail right there, no matter how much hard they tried. Second of all, we didn't even have a good training program for them to do. So when we hired junior ones, I realized I couldn't train them. I thought I could train them, but then I couldn't, because it was just too deep in it. And then a third time when we just tried, I think we went too broad, and there was just too many different directions. We listened too much to them about what they wanted to do versus what we should be doing. So it's a little bit of a balance on this, but it's something that you may be able to do multiple times, not even once or twice. So if someone says, I'm going to hire an engineer, usually you have the expectation of hire, stick, involve in product. In business, hire the first salesperson, a revenue generating person. I mean, you may need to hire, you try multiple times, and maybe your business direction will also change in the meantime. So I know that was a lot to say. So maybe giving some tips. Maybe approach every revenue generating person with a little bit of a talent pool approach. Is this person gonna able to help me now, or maybe later, if not now? Because your business may not be ready for that kind of salesperson yet. So don't think of how you can transactions, how this person can help me today. Maybe with the mindset of how this person can help me later on differently. So you're already looking at the sales and the marketing and the revenue generated people with a broader eye. I think that helps.
Gotcha. I do definitely think, and this is super common in my experience, is a product founder who is relatively senior, right? Maybe they have, I don't know, 5, 10 years of experience at a blue chip company, a bank, or one of the FANG companies or something. They've got the pedigree of, great, I'm used to running big teams, but I'm not so high up the chart that I don't still code. And so the technical founder will put together an MVP, get something working, and then say, great, this is working. I'm going to hire in, once I've sold my first couple of clients on this, somebody who's a VP or a C-suite at a big company, and bring them in, and not realize that one of the common problems in marketing and sales in particular is the skill set of a C-suite or VP level role at these companies is very, very different than the skill set of somebody who actually executes on marketing. And so if you recruit senior person in to your company, and maybe they're not a co-founder, they're a later hire, they get some smaller fraction of equity, they're less motivated, whatever it is, they won't necessarily dive in and do hands-on work. And I've seen a whole lot of startups I've worked with where the business founder, or co-founder, I should say, business co-founder, is unsatisfied. The tech founder and the business co-founder aren't seeing eye to eye because of these problems. And so their tech co-founder goes off on their own and says goodbye to the business co-founder. I think if you're building on the product side, it's really important to note, if you hire senior, make sure they're still willing to do execution. if you're hiring junior, the other big fail I see is founder-led sales is so different than salesperson-led sales. And your salesperson you bring on board, you built your startup for 3 years. You can, by simple breadth of your knowledge of your problem, convert people to sell. But if you don't have a system where this is the script, if you follow this, this works this percentage of time, your junior salespeople can't do the job because they won't be able to develop their own script either. That's on the product-led side. I think it's also worth talking about on the business-led side of things, right? You've got a business co-founder. They are growing their business. You're able to make money. I've got 2 startups I advise right now where the bandwidth on growth is the business co-founder inability to scale up the business side of things. How do you help unblock the business co-founder to make it where they are able to build a revenue team to support?
I was taking notes what you said because something came to mind that I wanted to say first
Yeah.
to really help. So let's address that a little bit later. When you look for your salespeople, you right away have to differentiate 3 different things when you screen them. What's their natural market? Because maybe they have connections they can bring to you. How their ability to learn your business and qualify the opportunity, and so on and so on and so on. And the bigger thing is this personality has the person has the right personality to long-term prospect. So meaning long-term getting you the new leads. And so that's what's their practice. So there's a short-term, mid-term, long-term thing. And the short-term, obviously, who they know. Mid-term, how they're getting the deals for you, and the long-term, meaning that once they run out of their market, how they can generate new things. And of course, this is where sales and marketing ends up partnering up, because that's how you get the best result. Most companies don't know how to screen for this, so they don't even know. Like they don't have tools. They don't. So if you don't have tools how to screen that, it's easiest how many people you know, right? Yeah, but how many people you know that could be suitable for my company as a lead, and let's try to qualify that a little bit further. Is already like a homework exercise that is that part of the interview process? Is that comes after the process? Is that something that I'm willing to pay for the person to look into that? Is the person comfortable with that, and so on, or things like that. So that's maybe most companies do that, and that's an easy thing. Then try to see how the salesperson will able to, kind of get traction and maybe qualify an opportunity better, or close an opportunity better, or handle the client, or upsell better, right? Things like that. And of course, that we do once you're there on the job, so you can't really do an interview. And of course, for the third one, is this person going to be long run, have the personality to open their wings? Personality, I have a tool for that. We've been talking about predictive index a lot. So that's a low-hanging fruit to test. Most companies don't do that because they don't have a tool. So that's back to your question. I'm sorry, you said, would you mind repeating the question? It was about founders.
Sure. So when you've got a business founder and they are generating revenue, but you need to scale up their ability to generate more, right? You have to get them a team. 2 startups I'm advising right now, but this is also pretty common broadly. Business founder, the revenue generating founder, has a really hard time knowing when and how to start to get support under them to make this business able to grow again. How do you recommend the business founder and the other founders in the company help understand this blockage and solve it?
Yeah, that's a very good question, because often it kind of goes back to the business owner may not know what really their bottleneck is. It's kind of funny. I had an earlier conversation this week, even today, about business owners who not knowing their blind spot. So they think they need leads, and then they let the salesperson get new leads, and then they just end up not closing business. So why the revenue is not happening? They may realize, oh, I actually need help qualifying the client more, or I need really a new something in order to close that revenue. So So what I'm trying to say is going through the cycle, the sales cycle completely, and identify if we have 2x growth here, are we getting able to handle that? If you have, all the way to invoice, then you have an understanding of what impact do you have with sales and where the salesperson can really help. Because in the process, in the new client process, you can do a lot of things on the sales side, almost overlapping to customer service side, and so on. And it's not just okay, bringing me new leads, right? And then, of course, the cost per lead is like a big question mark right away. Was this the most effective way to getting the leads as well? So what I'm trying to answer your question is most founders don't do this exercise before they hire. And so every time they come to me to hire and I ask them these questions, you get almost to a little bit of a confusion. Is why do you ask about me? I try to hire somebody.
Okay. That's a real good point. I like that. And it is super common, I think. I hear all the time. I'm sure you do too. If I can just get the prospect on the phone with me, I can close them. Right? And so the issue is to them, I just need more leads so I can get folks on the phone. And then I had a space of time earlier this year, right? For the first half of this year, I closed like 8% or 5% something of my sales calls. Just shatteringly bad. Awful, awful, awful. And fortunately, I've seen this problem enough where I didn't go, I just need to 10x my pipeline. Instead, I went, I'm the revenue generating engine for my business, and I'm not doing it. I broke it. How do I address that? And so for me right now, one of the things I'm working on is I've got a machine that now is working again, and it needs to be systematizable enough. I'm the business owner, right? I'm also the product owner because small company, but I'm trying to make that system something I can hand off to somebody who's mid-level, right? Somebody who's got a couple years of experience and say, this script works. If I can book you 6 calls a week, I know you'll close 1. Because if I book me 6 calls a week, I'll close 2.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Yeah. Whatever. I know that my sales hire won't close as well as I do. But the way to look at this, whether you're a business founder or a product founder, yes, your sales hires won't close as higher ratio as you. I generally say 50% to 30% as well as the founder. But if you have a machine that can feed them leads and they can reliably close a third as well as you do, then 100% of that business wasn't work you had to close. And that's when, as you mentioned before we started streaming, you've transitioned from a job that's 100% commission to a business.
Yeah. Correct. I think 2 things came to my mind right away. When you have somebody who you hire, whose obviously closing ratio is not going to be the same as a founder, how you can keep that person motivated so they don't see that as I'm not that good,
Good point.
Because that's the goal. Like, how can you, like, out of the gate motivate that person that fractional result that they're bringing in is also good. So often companies can maybe look at their sales cycle and say, do I really pay the person well when it comes to, is it lining up with their activity? So that's why I called on purpose the activity, because getting a monthly pay and getting a commission is nothing to do with your activity. It's just how corporate people do it, and people assume that's the best way. No, activity. Do you get a little bit of a maybe bonus, or call it, payment when you book a meeting? How about when you sign an agreement, right? So when you took a little bit of some of the steps from the sales cycle and award it, then people realize they're not getting a salary, they're getting a fractional activity payout, and that ends up becoming a lot more suitable for small companies. I give a very good example. Somebody said, how about I pay you hourly as well, but only if you actually prospecting and adding new leads to a CRM, because salespeople hate to do that. And the moment that the moment the activities of capturing the prospects and putting that in a system is hourly paid, the salespeople ended up doing it. Otherwise, they were just, I'll do this tomorrow. I'm just gonna log the opportunity, right? So, but then how many prospects led that opportunity? The ratio there is so important. So how you can capture that is by basically saying, you know what, for hourly work, when you prospect, but you can only talk to new people, new customers. Current, already pipeline opportunity, not loggable. You need to do that because you get, a meeting bonus or a contract bonus or a commission for that. So you can only log that fraction of the time that is a new conversation, a new email, a new reach out, a new thing. And you know what's the most important part? After a while, a busy salesperson realizes they don't log time anymore. That means they don't talk to new people anymore. And they are like, well, that's okay. Maybe you're closing your opportunities, but if you constantly have that, your pipeline in the long run will decrease because you don't
Will
talk
dry up. Yeah.